What is going on, everyone? Welcome, ToyShopFab. Now this is my 93 GMC 1500 that I did a boosted LS swap on. And in this video, we are upgrading the transmission because I blew it up. Third and fourth are gone. Couldn't keep my foot out of it. Yep, you heard me correctly. Third and fourth are gone. Matter of fact, last video we did, I managed second time around get the transmission of my Blue 87 to work properly. Shift through all the gears, drive it, and I used this truck to go pick up transmission fluid for that truck so we can finish fixing that transmission. And on my way there, just goofing off, in and out of the throttle, playing around, making turbo noises. Third and fourth left. They decided they were not going to hang out anymore. They moved out. Gone. So, luckily for me though, is I've been on Marketplace already, because that's what I like to do in my spare time. Is go on Marketplace, look for things, and we managed to pick up a 4L80E transmission for $400. Now, I have had such good luck lately. That is burned. That is extremely burned. Anyways, I have had extremely good luck lately with people telling me the truth on Marketplace, so we picked up that 4L80E that I was told worked perfectly fine, had all its gears shifted, not a single issue. So we're just going to go ahead, pull this one out, and throw that one in. And then we'll know for sure if it works. So, but 4L80E transmission picked up off Marketplace for $400. Guy said it worked perfect, didn't have a single issue with it. So, came with a torque converter, flex plate. I took some measurements. Overall length of this 4L60E and that 4L80E are the same. Length from the beginning of the bell housing all the way to the end of our tail shaft. The only difference, the only thing looks like I might have to modify is, well, hopefully not this crossover pipe for the turbo, but I do have to move this cross member back to get our transmission mount to line up where it's supposed to. And well, lucky for me, this is a flat transmission cross member. And well, where I need to put it on the frame is flat as well. So looks like all I got to do is just kind of line it up, re-drill some holes, or not, because there are a bunch of holes already. You guys can see them here on the frame. There's a bunch of different holes in this already. So it may or may not have the holes already there. I just got to move things around. Another cool thing is, well, it's the same length from the end of the tail shaft to the very front of our bell housing or our case. So I may or may not have to shorten my drive shaft. So hopefully I can just go ahead and swap these out for right now. I did, however, order the yoke for the rear end and another slip yoke. That's a 1350 when I am ready to jump all that over. But for right now, what I'm going to do is just, fingers crossed, it's in the mail. Hopefully it gets here. Hopefully I can just swap these yokes over off this drive shaft and get this thing back on the road and driving. So, transmission is now drained. Got no fluid in it, and that fluid was extremely burned. Truthfully, it probably started going out when I was doing the burnout. I did have a feeling I overheated the transmission then, because I did not let it cool down. I just kept beating on it. I wanted kind of a durability test, right? So, but it is burned. It's hot. Now, I'm assuming I broke, or the sun shell let go in this transmission, I'm assuming. But the only way to find out for sure is, well, we may or may not take this transmission apart in this video and figure that out. Right now, I'm just interested in getting this one out and that one in. All right, transmission is drained. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get this guy out of here. Get him moved over to the side. If you're wondering what size these little bolts are back here, they're 7/16. Another cool thing is looking underneath this truck is besides the one leak that we had when we were coming back from Power Tour, that is because I accidentally cut the O-ring on our little dipstick there. There are no other leaks. Everything underneath this truck seems to be holding up pretty good, which makes me extremely happy. Really am excited to get the 4L80 in there, see how this thing performs. Here's another cool little thing if you guys didn't know. The 4L80E transmission has the exact same gear ratios as a Turbo 400. It just has overdrive. Been looking all that stuff up, so that's neat. Wonder how this 10 bolt's gonna hold up. Almost have a feeling that this little 4L60E would have helped kept this little 10 bolt, alive longer. But now that we're gonna have a transmission that can take more abuse, see how long we'll gonna have to do a durability test on this 10 bolt. Although I have seen a bunch of other guys on videos and stuff like that. These things are, well, they're a lot stronger than you think. They tend to hold up fairly decent or fairly well, especially since this one right here, I believe, is a 30 spline, 31 spline, something like that. I know. All right. Probably gonna make a mess. Nope. Awesome. All right, so drive shaft is out. Go ahead and grab my little transmission jack here. We'll get up underneath the pan. We'll have to get that crossover tube out. Hopefully, like I said, I don't have to rebuild that. But anyways, we're gonna get the crossover tube out, get the transmission jack underneath the transmission, get all of our bolts out of the bell housing, get the lines to our remote transmission cooler undone, so we can get this thing out. Ready? Go. All right, transmission is out. Actually went ahead and started putting our 4L80 back in the truck. but I ran into a couple of issues. Now, I've already gone ahead and ordered the parts I need to get this transmission in the truck, and I will install them when I'm ready to put in a new torque converter. But right now, where I'm going to run the stock torque converter, and went ahead and modified these things so this transmission can go up here and fit behind this 5.3. And the reason I'm doing this is because, well, some of you guys out there are going to be like me, or you're going to get together with a buddy, you're going to do it at his house because he has some of the tools you don't. And some of you might run into this little situation. And I want to show you this so you have kind of a way out, or you can always just put the truck back the way you had it. But anyways, here's one of the things I ran into. Now, I pulled the fittings for our transmission cooler off the 4L60E. This one up here fits. This one back here would thread in, but the factory fitting here has a little nipple. It's about almost an inch long, and it goes inside through another O-ring internally in this. So they sell an aftermarket fitting or AN fitting to go in there, but I did not have it, so I had to use this. I just used the end of the factory transmission line, had a compression fitting, and then made an adapter for that to fit. Or you guys can just flare the ends and use hoses. So this would be one of the issues from going to a 4L60. From a 4L60E to a 4L80E is this right here. The second is the fact that the flex plate that came with this 4L80, as you can see, it is 6 holes, and that's fine. But this is flat. I went to go bolt this thing up to the engine, and well, it ran into the bolts on the rear cover. So that was not going to work. So what I ended up doing was I pulled the original flex plate that came with this 5.3, put it side by side with this one, and it's about roughly 1/8 of an inch different. So that one sticks out. Of course, you know, as you can see there, it curves outwards. So I pulled that one. I put the original one that was on this block up against this one, the flex plate that came with the 4L80, lined up all the holes that would bolt to the end of the crankshaft, and then marked out where all of these holes would be. Now, these holes here did line up with the original 4L60E. They were just in, so I had to actually oblong the holes on that flex plate to get them to line up with the ones on the torque converter, and then drill 3 new ones. So 3 of them are oblong, 3 of them are brand new. So that took care of that. Now, here was another thing I was thinking, because you don't want to get any of this stuff off center, but lucky for us, all this is kind of like hub centric. It centers itself on the crankshaft. It slides over the end bolts. So, I mean, the holes can be a little off, but the flex plate is perfectly centered on the crank, which takes care of that issue. Now, the next one is I have to reuse this little spacer right here that I used with the 4L60E transmission that came in this truck originally. So, and that just helps center up the torque converter. Now, it fits the end of our 4L80E torque converter and fits inside the center of this crank, centering the torque converter up again. Now, like I said, I did go through all this. I went through, up, took my measurements, did all of this so I could show you guys there is a way out, so you're not stuck in a buddy's house at 2 o'clock in the morning wondering whether or not you're going to make it home. So that's where I've gotten now. I've got the torque converter in. I double checked the throw. I got plenty of play. It's about 5/16 of an inch of gap when the torque converter is all the way back and the flex plate, which gives me plenty of room. I'm right within the middle of spec. That flex plate, the original one, has been retorqued to this engine. So now I'm going to get you guys in the stand. I'll get the transmission up, bolted. I'll show you the gap between the torque converter and our flex plate, showing you that it is correct. Then we'll go ahead and just kind of we'll start the bolts, because I do have to go and get some more hardware to finish making sure that that is bolted. And like I said, this isn't going to stay this way. I want to make sure this stuff kind of works before I go back to work. And some of you that have been with me for a while know that I do work. I'm gone for half a month and home for half a month. So a lot of this stuff I try to get done. But anyways, I want to put a brand new torque converter in this anyways. I want to do like a 28 to 3200 stall. But for right now, this one came with a stock one, so we're going to get it in, bolt it up, try to make sure all this stuff works before I go back to work. So anyways, we'll get you guys in the stand. We'll get this transmission bolted up and well, see if we run into anything else. So here we go. All right, transmission is in the truck. I only had to drill 2 holes for the transmission cross member. 2 of the holes already lined up, so that was cool. Just put them in there, bolted the 2 down, and then scribed a hole, drilled them out. So 2 holes, that was awesome. Transmission lines are hooked up. This one here, I just had to loosen my little bracket, swing it over, throw it in. This one, on the other hand, is I just threw a loop in it. I am still waiting on this fitting right here. So once I get that, and I am able to make sure I do not have to move transmission core. Once I figure out everything there is going to work, or if I do have to move it back, then I don't have to get more line. I can just use what's there. Or if I don't need it, it's good where it's at, then I can shorten it once I get the fitting. So that's done. The electrical cords are plugged in, or the loom just ran out from the factory spot, comes all the way to this side here, plugs right on in. So my transmission controller does both the 4L60 and 4L80E transmissions, so that's awesome. That was good. I had plenty of room on the loom or the wire harness. I just go over the top, plug it in there. Linkage is also hooked up, and it took very, very little to actually get it to work. And here's what I did. So factory linkage for the 4L60, this pivot here went in this part of the frame. This is already here, so the frame has both locations. Everything else is factory. This is the original bracket off the 4L60. It bolted right up, of course slides in. The only thing I had to do, modify this, was make sure everything was in park. The shifter on the column and this gear selector here was in park. Put it in, make sure it lines up. And what I had to do is just kind of judge, because I actually had to take this was over here, had to put a light twist in this whole rod to bring this up, and to loosen the 13 or 1/2 inch up here. That way I can bring this bar down. It still sticks out of the top, so there's plenty of rod still inside this keeper. And I function tested everything, so now I went through the motions. We'll know more once the truck's on the ground and I'm driving it, make sure but from what I could tell and feel in the clicks, it all went in, and that was cool. All I had to do was just kind of twist it to bring that arm back to line up and give myself plenty of room for adjustment. So got that going for me. But everything else, everything's pretty much bolted in. I'm waiting on a conversion U-joint for my factory drive shaft. Hopefully it'll be here within the next day or so. I'm hoping it gets here before I go back to work so I can test this transmission out, but you know, it is what it is. So, oh yeah, and here, show you guys the torque converter clearance. You can see this little gap right here. That is roughly 1/4 of an inch, maybe just a little bit more. So torque converter flows, or it moves freely. You don't hear it binding up or anything like that. So the clearance between here and here is perfect, or at least within spec. So, and yeah, everything felt good. Like I said, I lined everything up. It's all hub centric. It gets centered on the crankshaft, and then it has that little adapter for the torque converter to go into the crankshaft as well. All that fits. Torque converter lines up really nice. Everything turns smooth, so I'm not real worried about that. I did say though, I do have the correct flex plate and spacer coming for that, so I have it. I do plan on upgrading the torque converter here in the future, so once I get the transmission out to upgrade the torque converter, I'll go ahead and throw that flex plate in. So that's where we're at. Oh, I do have to order another little like dipstick tube for the transmission. The one that came with the 4L80E does not fit the truck. The 4L60E does not fit with this transmission belt. There's some stuff on the bell housing that's in the way. So I'm just gonna get one of those like cheap low car ones or something to have, but I do have the original one sitting in there off to the side so I can at least get fluid in this transmission and test it out. Fingers crossed. So, but for the most part, it's all buttoned up. I'm gonna go ahead and get all the bolts put in the torque converter, make sure that is nice and snug, get my crossover pipe back onto our turbo, and then at that point, I'm waiting on a U-joint. So hopefully when I come back with you guys, we'll have this thing on the ground, ready to pull outside, and go see how it works. Go see how if this works. See if I lucked out again and was told the truth. So, but anyways, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get the torque converter bolted up. When I come back, hopefully, we'll have that U-joint. All right, truck is on the ground and we're going for a test drive. It has reverse and it has first. So it is moving under its own power. So far, it's been a pretty easy swap going from a 4L60E to a 4L80E in this truck. It bolted right up, drilled 2 holes for the new to relocate the cross member. It's got the same drive shaft in it, except it has a 1330 to 1350 conversion U-joint. I bought a 1350 slip yoke for this transmission, and then now I've just topped it off with fluid, so we are going to head out and see how this transmission performs. So got Ashley with me. She's going to do some recording too. We're going to run some errands. I have no idea how this is going to work out. We may or may not need a tow truck later. My luck with transmissions lately though have not been the best. So here we go. So we made it back, and I'm gonna tell you guys that transmission, I was not lied to again. Good, solid, firm shifts. I mean, never got hot. I think it never got over 197, which was awesome, which is way better than the engine because, well, it's very, very hot and humid. And my poor little engine's probably, I had to coast it a couple times because it temp got up there. But transmission did awesome, good shifts. It took every downshift, every stab on the throttle, which is cool. It's something I could not do with the 4L60E. It wasn't very good. I mean, it worked. It did its job. It got us through Power Tour. It got me around town. I got the truck to move. It did great behind other engines, but it didn't like the turbo engine here because every time I go to pass it or go to passing gear, it would blow through second like it wasn't even there. So this one, you can stab it, it downshifts, it hits hard and goes. So that's awesome. That is awesome. I'm extremely happy that to have something in this truck now that's a little more durable, can take a little bit more of the abuse, just that much or that much closer to getting it on the track. I got a couple little things I want to do on this truck. I got a line lock we're going to install, and one of those manual boost controllers. I'm not going all high tech on it or anything like that. We're just going to throw that in there and start creeping up the boost while I'm figuring out the Phytech system. But anyways, like I said, I'm going to put links to everything I used for this swap in the description. I didn't buy very much at all. If you're wondering how the torque converter flex plate did, awesome. There's no vibrations at all. So like I said, it is hub centric on the crankshaft. So I just lined it up, drilled the holes out to accept the larger ones for that torque converter, and then bolted it back up. I do have a new one coming. So, but anyways, I'll put links in the description. I'll put a link to the flex plate that I bought to replace this one, the slip yoke that I bought as well, and conversion U-joint, which I did not get with the our slip yoke. I actually had to go to my local Napa to find it. It is a P448. And this is a 1330 to 1350 conversion joint, usually when you go from like half ton to 1 ton, stuff like that. So again, P448, get up there so you can see. It is a Napa number. That's what I used. Drive shaft could possibly be a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch shorter. I have about a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of travel, and I did cycle the suspension, so I have about 3/4 of an inch before it runs into the back of the tail shaft. I would like a little bit more, so I do plan on upgrading the drive shaft in this to go all 1350 style U-joints, the bigger, stronger ones, because I do have the parts to do that. Just need to have the drive shaft made. But for a simple driver or something you guys can do, didn't take much, really. Would have been about a day if I had all the parts. So, but I'm extremely happy with the way this turned out. Now I got to get cleaned up, kind of see if I can't move on to something new before I go to work. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for hanging out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Subscribe. Okay, if you've made it this far, you're new and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that little subscribe button. Hit and ring the bell. Ring the bell too. Definitely want to get back on some of these other projects, but anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If I missed something, leave a comment, ask. I'll do my best to answer. So, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for watching. And I'll catch you on the next one.